what exactly that I want to make, what I want to work with, and how I help people and connect with people is through content creation. Now, in the pandemic, there were much, much more people at home and they really got into it. They had a story to tell, they had something to relate with, they had something to connect with. And if you really think about it, what really makes content? Is it a how to? Is it advice? What about an interesting story, a haunting, so to speak? Some of my friends and colleagues that make content, I find a lot of their material not just entertaining, but drive my curiosity. And so how do we do it all? What's the process? And you can ask, and hey, Jason, how did you get into it? And why did you get into it? Well, it started back in 2015, I believe. I had a curiosity. I had seen podcasts on my iPhone. Was an Android user, and one of the icons that came up on the home screen was the Apple, podcast. I don't know what the hell's a podcast. I mean, I've heard the word, but I never knew what exactly was it. Right? I didn't know what to expect, what to think about it. But in the long run, I ended up figuring out, I was like, well, maybe I could do that. I mean, I talked my girlfriend's head off. I talked some of my family's head off. I mean, what have you. I definitely made my presence be known. And I was like, okay, well, why don't I take that interest and that curiosity and really put into something that I could really enjoy and then my family can enjoy um, forever, as long as we can use technology. And it has brought some highs, some lows, some personal development, all kinds of stuff. Anywhere from having a recording between me and my grandmother in her last years, and having a place for her sons and daughters to go and listen to her voice once more. You could say almost stored away or frozen in time, to struggles with personal issues, how to develop business relationships, all that great stuff. And when we think about what we actually connect with and why we're connecting, it really comes down to is why did you want to create a piece of content? We have these apps like Clubhouse, we have Stereo, we have all kinds of amazing vehicles that we can deliver our voice or we can deliver our presence through a video. I mean, did you ever imagine that maybe you'd be on camera or possibly you'd be the one to tell a story? That's where a lot of people are curious. Could I be famous or could I develop and get paid for it? Or is this just something I really enjoy and I want to share with people? And I'm not really seeking a reward. So that's really kind of like some of my thoughts and my explanations, but I essentially got into podcasting about 5 years ago. And I first started out with a podcast. It was on anchor.fm, which is an app that has now been renamed Podcasting with Spotify. And the podcast was I called the podcast, so the connection piece was called Good Vibes with Jason B. That was the handle that I used. I chose a screen name. I didn't want to use my full name, but this is before COVID even happened. And little by little, the app grew. And at first, it was like a minute, 2 minutes, and then it was 30 minutes. And then they said, well, hey, you can actually post this content for Apple Podcasts and Google Pod. And my whole world was just kind of like opened up, so to speak. And so when I started looking at what was taking place, I started really evaluating like, wow, this really can take me to many different places in the world. I can connect with many different people, and maybe people might be interested in what my experience is and what my interests are. And I started following as they say, the yellow brick road, the trail of content creation. And it's been a long journey. I started out first with just my iPhone and my headphones. I didn't have an XLR microphone like I do now. I didn't have a good headset like these Sennheisers. I didn't have a lot of things, but I was like, wait a minute. Now, what really kind of like sprinkled the curiosity dust even more was how I got reimbursed or paid. People donated money sometimes. And there were apps where I won on contests just talking about certain things of interest. And what was so interesting at that time was that I took it to the next level. I'm like, wait a second, I got paid $100 for the end of the week just for me talking and people coming in and then liking my stuff. And I was like amazed. I'm hooked. I'm in. And I met a lot of interesting characters along the way. And some of these characters are actually close friends to me on a daily basis or weekly basis. Matter of fact, one of my closest friends, Mr. No Show, who is my co-host, we've been on a show called Blank Canvas, which right now it's kind of on a hiatus, but we still talk. We talk about making our content. We talk about making impacts. We look at social injustices. We look at all kinds of things. We look at how the world is constructed and how are we actually going to tell a story to make it better. And we started out just audio only, and then eventually we moved to video. And it's been a wild frontier. I mean, there's so many aspects of this game, that you can be involved with. And when you look at actually what's taking place, you can actually take the time and see, wow, you know what? You don't need to be an expert. You don't have to have the most expensive equipment. You really don't. All you need to have is an interest, a vehicle, and several pieces of a vehicle that can get you to storytelling and connecting, and people are going to listen. So that's really I guess a big part of it. And when you think about it, what's actually going to take you to the next level? I mean, there's so many prescribers of how to create a podcast. There are many prescribers how to do a great YouTube. And I'm going to actually see if I'm live on Clubhouse, which is a social audio and streaming app that you can connect with people on various different issues. And when we look at this, maybe you might find, camaraderie, you might find things that people can relate and learn off you. So, yeah. And I was very blessed. I do want to share this with you. A good friend of mine, Julie Logan, who is one of the writers for Audiocasters, the ultimate guide to podcasting. I got this just yesterday and I started reading into it. That's right. And that's my normal way of doing, or here's my normal way of checking out books. Yes, I'm already highlighting, I'm already going through, and some of the stories, the points, like even going back to the basics of why other people got into podcasting, what brought me to podcasting, and how I can maybe sharpen my own tools with sometimes going back to the basics. And there was interesting, excerpts that I would say that came in this book. Like I said, I've highlighted a lot of this book, and you can find this on Amazon. That's right, you can find it, and I will leave the link in the description of my YouTube. So if you're a member of YouTube, following me and subscribing, I will definitely share that. So real quickly, let me share the screen where I found this on Amazon. So let's look at this real quick here. And here we go. All right. So bingo. There we go. So this is Julie's book. She co-authored this with Karina Bellizzi. Yeah, Bellizzi. And it's at a moderate price, but what are the highlights of this book? And I will have to say, actually, let me change the screen so it can be a little bit more focused. No, that's not going to work. Is this going to work? Nope, that's not going to work. We'll just do that for right now. Changing the views, and even I'm still learning about this. Okay, so when we look at this, I mean, here's the review. She's got 5 stars, 18 ratings. That's awesome. And Julie actually is a good friend of mine. So what's the book about? Welcome to the Magic of Podcasting, Audiocasters, and Complete Guide of Podcasting will teach you everything you need to know about how to launch and grow, even and monetize podcasting. She does explain, the two ladies explain a lot, and they use other content creators and why they came to the game. So I think that's an amazing feat in itself. And when you look at actually what's taking place, is they're kind of laying out, how they got into it and what's the game plan. And these are business ladies. They connect with issues and things, and they use friends of theirs who've created a podcast, created a whole new life, or reform their life. Matter of fact, when I was co-hosting on The Big Idea, which was kind of like just it's a group. myself, Julie Loken, and JC Dornick, aka the Dragon, who is a podcaster as well. We come and talk on apps like Clubhouse, and having that experience on Clubhouse also makes a big difference. So it's a point of connection, right? That's what we really got to look at. It's a point of connection. And what Julie lays out, which she is a part of, or she is the owner of the Media Casters Publishing, and um, you can find her meetups. So I highly recommend pick up a copy. I've read right now 4 chapters of this book, and the beautiful thing is there is exercises out of this book so that you can, like, let's see if I can show you some of the exercises. I did write, you know, for example, it says, like, in chapter 3, start dreaming. Take out to number 2 pencil, write down the fantasy guest who you'd like to interview, right? And so I wrote, that she has like exercises. Um, I think the camera's a little blurry, but anyhow, there's exercises throughout the book that you can actually step by step, hey, help you figure it out, right? Well, we also have, you know, like I said, she has some friends that helped her write the book, gave their perspective of how they got involved, and like in this highlighted area on chapter 2, taking inspired to action with Dr. JC Dornick, aka the Dragon. He gives a story about how he got in there, how he got to podcasting, content creation. And it was really not actually, when I read it, I really felt more connected to him in a way, because there was things I could identify with. And then, one of the things she did is she gave a QR code to check out their content. So I thought that was really nice, that you could actually see these people's stories, where you can find these content, instead of like, okay, put it in the credits of a book. So I felt like, so far, okay, 4 chapters in, I'll probably finish this maybe tomorrow, because I'll read about, probably like 6 or 7 more chapters. No, maybe 5. Yeah, I'll give myself a break. But it's not that long. It's easy to read. It's a total of, I believe, 191 pages. So that's something to consider. So if you're really curious and you want to know more, and especially if you're on Clubhouse, message me and I will be able to get you to the right connection, purchase a book. And for people that share and help subscribe to my channel, I will, you contact me, write me an email at 72thearchitect@gmail, and I'll try to get you a copy of the book, either discounted, or maybe I might give you as a prize. So, but hey, the solid followers, they definitely get first dibs. You know, what interests you about the show, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. So anyway, going forward, I have talked about, like I said, the audio casters. I'm not getting paid from this. The favor is like, I don't promote anything I don't believe in. So far, 4 chapters in, I'm liking it, I'm enjoying it. So check it out, and we'll be able to put the link in the show on YouTube. Anyway, going back to content creation, why create content? Why make content? There is a reason that we tell stories. People have told folklore and gathered around the campfire, or got in the house to teach morality or connection, the story of our family, so on and so forth, or how our food came to be, why we practice the daily livings that we do. When we actually look at these things, now we actually now understand there is a cause and effect. Now you could be the next a storyteller, content creator, and it's really up to you about how you want to attend to it. But here's a couple of things along the way. You may want to make a podcast, but there's a couple of things that I recommend you do first. And Julie does cover it in her book. Number one is, what kind of stories do you want to tell? Now, a lot of people say get into the branding, get in your niche. But when you first get into podcasting, write a couple of ideas of maybe a show, 30 minutes to talk about something of interest. And out of those top, I'd say write 10 down. Write 10 down, write the 10 ideas, and do they relate to each other, or do they build on to each other? Right. So I think that's a very, very valuable, that once you get started, you want to get started on this before you buy any equipment, before you do anything, or start judging yourself, who's going to listen to you. Don't worry about that, because more than likely, not many people are probably going to listen to you, and you're going to go through some growing pains. You're going to learn about your voice, you're going to learn about production, you're going to learn about a lot of things, and don't get overwhelmed. So writing the ideas down first. What about the name? The next part, what about the name of your show? You can put, like, for example, my name's Jason Barajas or Jason B. And I title my show my Stoic Circus. That's the name of my show. Like I said, I had good vibes with Jason B. I've had Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect. I created a handle so that I could create one big thing after. And this is kind of like forward and skipping ahead a little bit. I created a source where people can look up the handle 72 the Architect. I also made content, on YouTube where it's searchable, right? So that's what you got to know. You got to have kind of like what they call a Google panel. And if people can't search for you either by website or app, and they can't find you, and they're trying to Google you and see, what are you about? Are you telling the truth? Or are you just shooting the shit? Excuse my language. But when you think about it, it really comes down to making something for yourself in the long run, right? You're making it for yourself and you're going to share it to the world. And once you can see if you're searchable on Google, once after you started posting and promoting, how people can find you is a big part of the battle. Now, going back after you've created your label, you've created some topics, and then it's time to tell the story. Now, a lot of us, we have a lot to say, so be mindful about what you say, how you say it. Listen, record yourself, because when I first started recording me on the microphone, one of the things, I did not get used to how I sounded. So I was like, okay, well, if I want to sound professional and I want to be a better storyteller, I need to learn about the voice. I took some time to get a little bit of coaching in my voice. What I also did was I started punching up YouTubes. I was like, how do you start speaking better? I started listening to audiobooks about public speaking. And when I did that, then I started listening to myself, making little episodes, sometimes 5 minutes, other times 1 hour, hour and a half. And I realized, wow, sometimes I'd seem like I'm all over the place. But what I would do is I would start listening to others. And that's the other key. If you want to be a content creator, you want to be a podcaster, I believe you must do this. You must go and listen to people who represent similar interests like you, who tell their story. And not to compare yourself, but to actually look and see, well, I like these things of what they did. And let me write that down. And so when you do that, now you're not comparing or contrasting. You're just giving yourself maybe a little bit of a roadmap. Maybe you're giving yourself a little bit of design inspiration. Maybe you can do it a little better. I don't know. But you get into that mode, you make it, you put it in a package, and guess what? You start working on it. You record it. And then comes the next big part. So here is another big part of the storytelling, the editing, right? So let me pull up to see if I can pull up one of the editing apps. Let's see, Descript is one of the apps that I use. It's on a desktop. Let's see. I'll share the website in just a minute. Let's go here. All right, pull this up. Descript. All right, let's share the screen. Okay, as you see, this is the entry screen. Let me share this. There we go. You're going to see this is the beginning screen that it's open to anyone. There is some options of free, and then there's paid. And it's very, very, very important to understand when after you're done speaking, how do you put it all together and make it look nice? Well, what Descript is, it will transcribe. You take your audio file, which you're going to learn about. Usually it's an MP3 or a wave. You're going to learn about taking that file that you record on your phone or your computer, and then you're going to go into this pre-production or post-production software. And guess what? You load it in and it loads a transcript. It reads it to you, or takes the audio, makes a transcript of it, and you see how you speak. You're going to notice that you're going to come through the ums and the ahs, and you know what I'm saying? That's one of some of my most notable filler words, as they say. You go in and you look at it. Now, I'm going to share a little bit about the pricing. So, like I said, there are options. Okay, so the first one, the first category, free. What does that include? Okay, so it basically says 1 hour a month, of transcribing hours. Remote recording, 1 hour. Okay, great. Watermark free for 1 month to export. Video export resolution, 720. Why is that important? Well, if you do video, 720 is a grade of how clear it's going to be. So overdubbing, that means you're going to use some words, you make a mistake, whatever, you're going to fill in that stuff, but all that's going to matter later. And mostly this is showing how to video edit. But then as you go up to the creator, you pay $12 a month. And this is if you pay for the yearly, right? In advance. You can do monthly. So watch how the prices, they do change. The price does change when you switch over to monthly. So as you can see, the prices do go up. And you got to pick the best platform. Me, I picked the Pro. Um, the app has definitely bought out and gained some assets. They have a podcasting production platform. Exactly. So you can go, and it's almost like a one-stop shop. You go, you take your audio, you load it in, you edit it, then you produce it into the network of the world. You put into Apple Podcasts. You're going to have to create one of those and apply for that. And then Google Podcasts, wherever people can listen. And there are places like Audible, right? Audible's probably the most notable where you can find podcasts, right? So it's very important to understand you can do this in editing. So you're going to learn all about that. I'm covering this really lightly. And that's the thing. So now that we know in the production side, you've got editing, you've got tools, video and audio. And then what if you just want to be on audio? That's perfectly fine too. You can do that in here. So I'm going to get out of Descript. And then comes then uploading it, right? But how do people get a hold of you? How are they going to find you, right? That's the next difficult part. And what I did is I created, a friend recommended to me, Podpage. Podpage is where you can load your blogs, your vlogs, your YouTubes, your podcasts. It's kind of like a mini web page. It's a hub, really, if you ask me. It's a hub to get you to be able to produce and distribute. So, there's so many different platforms that you can distribute your content to, but this is one place where people can actually just go pay attention to. So I'll share that here in a second. And mine needs work. Mine definitely needs some development. So let's see if I can share my pod page real quick here. All right. So as you see, the pop-up screen is, hey, there's my email right there. And put your first name and your email address and subscribe, you know? So as you look, okay, I'm going to go into my episodes. Okay. So I have a couple episodes here published. I need to publish more on here and share more uploading. And this will share the audio, right? But then this is just the audio part. What about videos? Okay. So now, you know, um, you're gonna see like a lot of my YouTubes. Boom, boom, boom. They're all right there. So if you don't know my YouTube URL or the handle, which is 72 the Architect, that's how you'll be able to find me on YouTube. You'll be able to. Oh, I didn't share the screen. Hello. Let's see. Why didn't I share the screen? Let me do this. Share. All right. And do. Okay. So as you can see, now that I've switched back over to the screen, you see that like, okay, all my YouTubes are right there. Now, what about the about? When people want to know about me, I've got to update my about stuff. So I wrote, hey, my original show was Rise and Grind. Take stoicism, philosophy, practical knowledge, and experience from daily life as a father, a partner, and a businessman. This podcast focused on social impacts. So I upgraded. I left Rise and Grind because it was kind of like a genericized term, and there's so many Rise and Grinds podcasts out there. There's quite a few. So I changed to my Stoic Circus. So there's definitely work that needs to be done on my website. Now, that's not that I'm saying you can't learn from it, but this is an example. So everything that you invest in content creation and podcasting or even streaming, it does need supportive work. So this page I'm working on and I'm going to start using it to, hey, this is my calling card. You want to check me out? Right on, man. We'll focus exactly on that. So when we look at that, hey, bam, I'm really happy with all this stuff. And people want to know, it's like, well, how do I get into this stuff? It seems like it's so much work, right? It really does seem like it's a lot of work. But the more the work that you put in, the more work and products you're going to get out, and you've got to coordinate that. It's a long process. I mean, I've been doing it off and on 5 years, and I have a regular life. I'm a dad, I'm a partner, and I've got to work a profession. It's difficult, right? And so when we look at all this and we look at the possibilities of what you can do and take your story, make it something unique, you can be the artist you've always wanted to be. You could be reading books, reviewing books, you can review products. A lot of people are making money doing these things. And there are podcasts, there are people that I definitely love listening to. Let me see if I can pull up um a podcast. I think that's another big point. Let me show you an example. Let's pull up one of my friend John Wiley. Let's see, haunting or not podcast. So I'm going to Google this real quick and see, haunting or not. And he is on Spotify. And I'm going to share this. Wait, I went to the wrong one. Let's see. Do. Haunting or not. Search results. There we go. All right. All right. The science. No. Why didn't it give me? Trying to find. That's the other thing is you got to make sure you have your apps in line with what you do. So let me see if I can share this a different way. Okay. John Wiley, podcast host. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. There we go. Matter of fact, I'm going to use his Instagram. Close. And I'm going to share his page real quick. And I hope he doesn't mind, but share. Now, John he posts on his social media different posts about police, and he talks. And if you notice, he's got a link tree. All right. So we're going to switch over to that. And here is all, there we go. Haunting or not, the one I actually wanted to get to. Here we go. Now we're talking. So if you look on, if you're not watching, here we go. All right. And let me see if I can focus this a little bit more down. Haunting or not. There we go. Share. Okay. So here's his podcasting on Apple, his podcasting page, haunting or not, stories real or fake. And it gives a brief description, the story he's telling with him and his wife, Stephanie. Loved the episode about The Exorcist and Jesse James. Definitely appreciate it. So you see all these episodes that you can get into, right? So you can go up and down, and here's all his posts. And these are all the episodes that you can listen to. But on the right-hand side, you see Apple Podcasts, listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Castro, subscribe to his RSS feed, listen to Amazon, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So there's all these different apps actually that you can download to your phone. You can put it in your phone and tell your story. Like I said, it's very important. And so when we look at what actually is taking place, you can do this too. It takes some work, but like I said, I'm only giving you kind of like an overview of what is the possible avenues you can take to telling your story. So I'm still developing. I'm updating all my brand new stuff. Matter of fact, I've got to update my pod page later today and give a good bio, a good description to where people can find me and how often do I come on live or do I just post recordings? That's the other thing. When you're making content, some people like to just go on live. And some people like to record and then post and then they share it. There's all kinds of ways of distributing, marketing your podcast or your stream, but it's really going to be up to you. And then you've got to build relationships with people, right? You've got to actually understand that it doesn't go nowhere unless you put the work into it. Good morning, Sarah. Good to see you. Thanks for the comment. I definitely appreciate it. And if anyone else is watching me on Facebook or anywhere else, thank you so much. So when we're actually looking at all this stuff, as I've covered in the last half hour, we're looking at the possibilities of taking your story or taking your interests, put it out there, connect with people, right? Because dogs are not going to listen to it and animals are not going to listen to you. So remember, if you're shy about who you are, you're afraid to share too much, you've been scared from the internet, doesn't matter. You're here for people just to listen to you. And I will say this, not everyone leaves a review. Some people just listen 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it may be. They'll listen to you. And if they're really interested, they may leave a review like, hey, I found that your thought was very provoking. Your social post about whatever, let's say world events, the war that's going on between Israel and Hamas, you mentioned an untruth. People sometimes feel like they got to comment, but remember, all publicity is not necessarily negative publicity. It is they're paying attention. People pay attention to things, but it's how you can't worry about always the negative effects. So when you think about all this stuff and you think, why am I making content? Because you're sharing ideas and you're sharing connection points. And the more people that do, actually the world could get into becoming a lot better place than it already is. But sometimes oversharing may also be a negative thing. So yeah. Anyhow, that's pretty much my spiel for today. I'm actually going to this again probably on Saturday and go into a little bit more further of the tools, the aspects of life that you can really enjoy this with. Like I said, go to Amazon, pick up a copy of my friend's book, Audiocasters, The Ultimate Guide to Podcasting. Pretty easy read. It's got some workbook-like segments where you can, put your ideas down. You can see other podcasters, how they've made a success process. Like I said, even how-tos to lay out your format. And definitely the book is really not that expensive. It's really decently priced, $20 on Amazon. Maybe you can find it at other distributors and let Julie know from the Media Casters. Let her know, let her leave some good reviews. Anyhow, that's all that I've got for my main content. Let me see if I'm going to bring anyone else up who wants to kind of talk about, who maybe want to give some feedback. Let's see what I've been saying. So good morning to those on Clubhouse. What are your guys' thoughts? I said, I know you said you got into starting off on Anchor, but who and actually got you into it? Myself. There was no particular podcast that really caught my attention. I was like, I just like talking. I was like storytelling. I was like, oh shit, excuse me, excuse my language. I got into this with the notion of using what I already had. If I like the gift for gab and I like talking and telling stories, why not put it to somewhere useful instead of just blowing up somebody's ear? So, Sarah, good morning. What are your thoughts and questions? Thank you for expressing some on YouTube. That really helps out. Any feedback that you want to talk about?
I know. I literally just reread what the question I put on there, and I was like, it didn't spell out right, but you understood at least.
That's okay.
But but so I was just because that's how I started off is on Anchor. Well, actually, yeah, I started off on Anchor, and that's how I got onto Wisdom because of the whole and
what is Wisdom? I know what it is, but for our listeners, what is Wisdom?
Wisdom is another social audio app that you can go live, but you can only have like one guest up there instead of multiple guests on stage with you. And they're on it's on a time limit on that one, but it's a place where people who actually have wisdom to share to other people and give wisdom off is that's the best place to go to, kind of thing. I'm not sure. It's changed a little bit now, but I don't really get on it as much as I used to.
Got
But
you.
um I do uh have an Anchor still, or the Spotify for podcasters
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot. And I see that they're changing a lot of stuff on there. So I just wanted to know, is Podpage, is that like, it's free?
You can make a free
Correct?
pod page, but it does have some limitations. When you pay for it, you get more options, just like any other app, and you
Okay.
can develop from a desktop. It's going to be up to you and what you want on it. Maybe you want some vlogs, maybe you just want some audio content. I mean, it's really going to be up to you what you present. So it's like without having to pay for an expensive web page to distribute your content, it's a place where you can upload stuff, you can share with people ideas, posts, calendars when you're going to be live, what app, or maybe not an app, and you just want distribution like, hey, come consume, download, all that good stuff. So it's definitely a place where you can make what's called a landing page. And when people want to know where you're at, what you're doing, they get to come and land and find out more. And if they like your episodes, they go into it. So definitely you can do that. So I pay for it.
Okay.
I think I pay $20 a month, and it saves me a lot of money on having to pay. I mean, web pages can cost you up in the where of making a good one for a professional view, $10,000. And sorry, I'm just not going to pay $10,000. Not at this point.
That's
You know,
that's a lot.
it's a lot of money, but it can go that high or more, when you do
Um,
upper, when you're getting
it,
paid
will-
and people
it
donate.
does give you some good advantages, it sounds like.
It does. It gives you visuals, it gives you optics, and people now look at
Oh,
you optically and they look at what they can get, where they consume. Because when you're listening to podcasts, you are a consumer. Um, I listen to certain podcasts who are great storytellers. Sometimes I listen to the true crime,
mhm.
not very much, but I listen to more of the how to do it, or lately, especially about parenting. I've been listening a lot about, what other dads think, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those points where you can do that. But we want to make content creation not so difficult. Some people get so techie and just, it's like, yo, you just blew my mind, but you're speaking Chinese to me. I'm speaking English here. Make it make sense,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. That does make sense. Okay, cool. Thank you. Much
N-
appreciated.
no
Excuse me.
problem.
Much appreciated.
You got, and that's the other thing is when you get into podcasting, you will eventually become a better speaker. The more you do it, the more you learn about your own voice, the more comfortable you are, and people will get to know you. So, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much what I got for today. Anyhow, if you guys want to tune in this Saturday, I believe 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, what is it, 10 a.m. Mountain Central and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. I'm going to go more over the process and dive deep, and hopefully I'll have a few guests to talk about their podcasts and what makes them successful at it, or why people go and listen to them. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a great day today. And
You too.
yeah, you take care, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming up. I really appreciate you. Anyhow,
No problem. Thank you.
all right, all right. And all right, everybody. So I'm going to be ending this show. So you all have a great day. Subscribe and like on my YouTube at 72 The Architect. If you can't find it that way, just punch up my Stoic Circus. More than likely, you're going to find my episodes. Leave some comments, some likes. I would love the support, and share with your friends. All right, y'all, take care. Have a great one.